pre-foreclosures to the grave, because there's more meaning behind it. Because I believe that doesn't matter what you do in life, even real estate, right? You want to go through real estate because typically you want to build wealth. But if that's your only motivation, I promise you in 2 years, you're burnt out. You get bored, you're burnt out. You don't feel like you have a sense of purpose. So why not flip it to let you solving problems and serving others bring and the result is you building your wealth by default. But if you don't have a bigger sense of purpose, a bigger sense of meaning behind it, right? Well, guess what? After 2 years, you can only do so much. My name is Mamadou Diallo. Actually, Mamadou Lamine Diallo. I do have a middle name, even though most people don't address me as it. And Mamadou meaning the praised one, Lamine meaning the trustworthy, and Diallo meaning the bold. My dad gave me that name with intention. So I was born in Guinea-Conakry, lost my mom at the age of 7. So I left my family. I grew up in a refugee camp in Belgium, in Europe. And I think, one of my passions is just teaching. I love learning and teaching. And I think I got that from my dad from an early age. Before I left him at the age of 7, my dad would carry me always on his lap. My dad, I've seen him all his life. He passed away 2 years ago. He was 89. And I've seen all his life just community service, teaching. He had about 4 schools in our house, teaching people in the neighborhood. And one of the very strict rules he has at our house, as soon as you start talking, you wake up in the morning at 5 a.m., pray, you learn, and then you teach the Quran, because we're Muslims. So if you're one chapter ahead of somebody, you have to teach them. That's before breakfast. You're not allowed to have breakfast before you pray, learn, and teach. So I think I got that passion from him. I've traveled a lot before I left at the age of 7. I've traveled a lot with him, and I've seen him, give talks. I've seen him give charity. I've seen people come and consult him at his home. The door was always open. Anybody can walk in, ask him advice. So he's known as this wise man. So I've carried those memories with me, even though I grew up by myself at the refugee camp. So that kind of helped me with all these kids from, different war countries that I grew up with. I was a bit way more mature for my age when I was at the camp. So I avoided a lot of trouble by having boundaries for myself. Even I think I got that from my dad. So yes, it starts at home. With that being said, so that's where my passion for teaching comes from. The way I discovered real estate is I'm a school dropout. I left school at the age of, I don't know what age, but like probably 6th grade. I was sick of it. I was studying things I don't like. It was mechanical engineering. I didn't choose it. My godmother chose it for me. And I left it because I honestly didn't like it at all. So I did a bunch of jobs like supermarkets, you name it. Now looking back, I'm grateful because every single position I've, occupied at any 9-to-5 was at least people. Communication, so supermarkets, clothing stores. My last corporate job was Belgium's national railway company. So if you ever been to Europe, the high-speed trains that you take from Belgium, Germany, Italy, I was a commercial agent for that company. Actually, I shouldn't have been because you technically can't if you didn't graduate for high school. But I sold myself because, I speak 4 different languages. So I was very good at communicating. So I sold my way in and they kind of just let it slide, right? So with that being said, the way I discovered real estate, I was in Belgium at that 9-to-5. It was at a lunch break. I was looking for, so I used to own a wrapping car business. Anybody know what wrapping cars are? Okay. I used to own a business on the side, and I was looking for a warehouse to rent. And as I was on my lunch break, started looking, a YouTube video popped up, and it was somebody here in the US from Baltimore. I always blank on the guy's name, but he was on a very famous radio show podcast talking about his story, how he made $800,000 in his mom's basement. From all I understood is this guy is flipping paper, because like the way he explained it is I'm finding an ugly house, I'm putting it under contract, and then I'm selling the contract. That's all. He just clicked. I'm like, okay, he's flipping paper. Like, what is this guy talking about? So I couldn't stop watching. That day, went home, 3 p.m. I think from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. I was sitting just watching more videos and more videos about it. I'm like, hold on. Because in Europe, I've tried that. I've tried to do real estate. I've actually tried. And I had friends that are property managers. Now I know it's property managers. Back then, I didn't know. And I had friends that were realtors, and I didn't know they were realtors neither. They're just saying they're in real estate, but they're working to get a commission. That's a job, right? They're not investors, if that makes sense. I was like, hold on. So in the US, you can what? Find a house, put it on the contract, blah, blah, blah. So I just, him, Max Maxwell, all these guys, I'm just listening. And I'm like, okay, I called my little brother who lives in Marseille, France. I say, little brother, I'm about to quit my job in 6 months. And I'm going to go try this new thing I found on YouTube. He said, what? I said, yeah, but he didn't even understand what I'm talking about. But the way our dad raised us, we supported each other a lot. My mom had 13 kids, so I have 13 siblings, and we're all very close. And so he's like, listen, I know when you have something in mind, you just do it. So I'll support you, but I have no idea what you're talking about. My older brothers, when we got split, when my mom passed away at the age of 7, they all got sent away, and 2 of them landed here in the US, actually. So they've been here forever. So I used to do back and forth vacation, but I just never stayed. So I called them and I said, I'm coming to vacation. I didn't tell them what I wanted to do. I said, hey, I'm coming, guys, for 2 weeks. So my idea was to quit in 6 months. I ended up quitting in 3 months. Because every job I've done, honestly, after 2 years, I was bored. I was just looking for something, a new challenge, you know? So I came, stayed 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month. They're like, bro, when are you going back? You said 3 weeks. What happened? You're still here 1 month later, right? So never forget, I took my 2 older brothers to Panera. I come from a culture where the hierarchy is very simple. Dad, respect. If the dad is not around, the big brothers carry the flag. So you don't just go in front of them and just talk however you want, right? So you got to consult them. So I took them to the Panera Bread. I say, guys, here's the idea. I discover this thing called real estate wholesaling, and I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see if it's fake. If it's fake, great. If it's not, if it's real, great. But I'm going to try it out. And they're like, okay, so you're telling me you have a government job, because my 9 to 5 was a government job. And at the time I was going through divorce also. And my ex-wife was pregnant with my now 4-year-old daughter. So all these things, so you're telling me you're going to quit the 9 to 5, which is the best job you've ever had. You used to work in supermarkets. And for something you discover where? On YouTube? Like, yes, on YouTube, right? So now, mind you guys, I'm the only dropout in my siblings. All my siblings some of them have PhDs, some of them have masters, all in whatever. I'm the only guy that just couldn't stand school. So they listened to me and I'm like, yes, YouTube. Okay, my older brother, meaning the oldest, he's like, okay, I've been in America my whole life. And yes, he did, high school here, university, everything. Have kids, married here, have kids. He's like, I've been seeing those signs. We buy houses cash my whole life. Here, I live here, right? Those are multimillionaires. They buy houses cash. Can't you read the sign? It says we buy houses cash, right? So he's like, there is no way you're going out here locking up a deal. There's no way that's real. Like, he couldn't believe it. I didn't believe it neither. I just wanted to try and see, what do I have to lose, right? My second brother, he just looked at me with the eye of, okay, what is next? You're gonna try to be an astronaut? Like, all your life, whenever we talk to you, you have a new job, you quit school, we didn't know, we had to find out. So, kind of the black sheep of the family, right? So, I looked at them and I said, actually, my second brother, he's like, hey, go find a job at a restaurant. Do something with your life, basically. That was his advice. So bottom line is, at that time, my dad was still alive, honestly. He was still alive. He was very disappointed that I quit my 9 to 5. I said, guys, listen, how about this? How about if I just go out and just prove the concept? Because I don't need you guys to pay my rent. I was living in one of my older brother's basement. I say, if you don't want it, it's fine. I can go rent an apartment. I mean, I grew up in a refugee camp, guys. I've learned to survive. I've raised myself. I've learned to survive. Very happy about it. So I was like, I don't even need you guys to support me. Let me just go prove the concept. You give me 3 months. If it's not real, I'm going back to Belgium. No problem. The oldest, obviously, when he speaks, the middle one listens. He's like, okay, let's give him a shot. Go ahead and prove it. And that's exactly what I did, guys. It took me 8 months, though, to prove it. But what ended up happening, though, is from the time I told them, give me the time to prove it, 3 months in, they noticed a very, very distinct, like they noticed a big difference about me. They're like, okay, typically when he says he's doing something, he does it for a week and he's done. This time, the party stopped. I used to party from Monday to Sunday. That stopped. Changed all my social media. I wasn't talking to my bad friends anymore that all they do is talk about girls. I was reading books. Every time I learned something about real estate, I was in his basement. I would run up to the living room and tell my brother what I just learned. So I became obsessed. Even at the dinner table, that's all I talk about. real estate, wholesale, real estate. Man, today I had this appointment with this seller. Man, listen to the call that I just made. I effed up, blah, 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 blah. And they see me driving. So I was doing Uber and Lyft plus real estate, which is how I actually got my first deal. Anyway, long story short, 8 months, locking up contracts, don't know what I'm doing, too high of a number, not closing, buyers cussing me out on Facebook because I don't know how to comp, right? So 8 months in, I'm like, shit, okay, this has to be fake. Like, but I'm like, okay, it cannot also be fake because I did get the contract, just didn't close. The numbers weren't right. So there's something that I don't know, right? And right before I give up, I have, and I'll always give this guy a shout out. I went to PA, Pennsylvania. There was a real estate meetup, right? Now, mind you, number one is a YouTube video that completely changed my life all the way across the continent. That's one. Second thing is this incident here. So there was a real estate event meetup in PA, and I went, and the speaker, his name is Brandon Nuts, full-time flipper in the PA market, well-known flipper. And as he was talking, when he was done, he was talking about the concept of wholesaling. Now, I've been driving for dollars, that's what I heard on YouTube. He gave out his number and said, reach out. I think he was trying to be polite. And I was that person that was calling him every single day. But I wasn't calling him to waste his time or pick his brain. I was calling him with actual leads. So I was marketing when I run into a seller and I'm stuck. I call him and say, hey, Brandon, I have this seller right now. They're looking to sell. This is X, Y, and Z, but I'm stuck here. Brandon never said no to me. He would literally hop on a three-way with me and talk to the seller. That's how I started learning how to overcome objections. And I did that, I think, almost over a month. And Brandon, one time he was like, Mamadou, do you want to come to Harrisburg, PA? I think it was Harrisburg, yeah. But no, Chambersburg, PA. 4 or 5 hour drives from me. Next day, I was like, hell yeah, I'm there. He's like, 7 a.m. Okay, great. I went there and he took me to a ride along that day, showed me all the flips he had going. And I went to an acquisition appointment with him, with his acquisition person. He showed me the checks, wholesale checks that they've closed. So that enforced that this is real. I just haven't found a deal yet, or I'm missing something. But he's like, listen to me, Mamadou, you have what it takes. At that event, you were the only person that kept hammering my phone. And I gave my number to a lot of people. So I was like, okay, I got something. Honestly, like, I think when you don't quit, the universe kind of just opens up and, you know what, let me get out of this guy's way because he's not giving up. So left there. The next day I was driving. I had a client with my Lyft and I'm listening to a podcast because I stopped even listening to music. And Steve Trang's podcast popped up and it was Pace Morby. Pace Morby was talking about this creative finance stuff, how he's closing deals that has no equity, negative equity. I pulled on the emergency lane. Like, hold on, let me rewind this. What did he just say? So boom, boom, boom. Anyway, long story short, I went on and started looking him up on Facebook. Then I found the next day he had a 16-hour free Facebook Live where he was breaking down creative finance basically for newbies at like ABC level. And then if you raise your hand, he will take you on stage and answer your questions and do a whiteboarding session with you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, all these contracts I had locked up, this is the solution. They couldn't close because the cash offer wasn't a fit, but the sellers had motivation. So all I need to do is to go back to these old leads that I've been dealing with. And it just so happened at that time, I had a contract locked up at $78,000 in Baltimore City. And the lady, every buyer was offering me like $45,000. That's what a cash offer would have paid for in Baltimore for that property. I didn't know at the time. My ARV was way off. I thought the ARV is 300. The actual ARV was 178. So you guys can tell how good of a comper I was, right? So, and Pace gave only 2 lines. He said, if you're new and you've been marketing and you have leads in your pen back and tell them this, I have a new partner and we have this new strategy called creative finance. And I think I might be able to solve the problem. We can take over your mortgage. That's all he said. Me, Mamadou, I didn't wait till the 16-hour live was done. I dropped out of the live. I called this lady. Travona is her name. Now she lives in Idaho. And I said, Travona, I've had this contract for 2 months, couldn't close. Travona was blocked me. She was so disappointed. Like, Mamadou, I really trust you. I prayed on this and I prayed to God that whoever, because she never gave anybody face-to-face appointment. She said, I prayed to God that whoever I would let into my house, that's my solution. And I was the only person she let in. I'm like, okay. So I went and pitched that. So same 2 lines, guys. Boom, boom, boom. She was like, okay, Mamadou, you will take over my mortgage. Okay. I'm down with it, but how does it work? What do you mean? I said, I don't know. That's it. But that's what Pace said. Say you don't know because you don't know. So I said, listen, I have no idea. I absolutely have no idea, but I know this is a solution. So let me call my partner tomorrow that knows how to explain this. I'll jump on a three-way with him. He will explain it. If you're comfortable with it, then we can move on. I don't care if I don't make any money out of it. I just want to help you out. What was her goal? Single mom, just got divorced, 3 kids, homeschool mom. She wanted to move to Idaho. The reason she was asking $78,000 is because she owed 75 and she need $3,000 to move and pay for her flight ticket. Take her kids to Idaho. So I'm like, listen, I don't care if I don't make a penny, but at least I want to be able to close. So the next day, anyway, long story short, went back on the Facebook group. I said, Pace, I just did what you told me, and I need help right now. I have a hot lead. Next day, anyway, long story short, a leader from Sub 2 hopped on three-way with me, explained to Travel, and she said, absolutely, I'm down for it. Just ended up happening. We found a buyer who's an attorney. We made basically $19,000 wholesaling that deal. But I was okay not making anything. But that's my first to a second story of pre-foreclosures. And I found it so gratifying that I fell in love with pre-foreclosures. It wasn't about, I didn't care how much I made on the deal. My first real pre-foreclosure is really $68,000. But this one was the one that I got the check first. The other one was in escrow. But I was like, hold on, pre-foreclosures is it. Reason being is because of who I am. I love helping people first. And then everything else will take care of itself. So for me, I was like, okay, this is gratifying. Like truly, the lady is crying, you know, everything she's been through, nobody was able to help, the 3 kids, now she can move to Idaho, move on to the next chapter. This property was holding her back. So I really, 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 really did something that matters for another human being. To me, I cannot tell you guys how I felt. I was like, pre-foreclosures, that's it. And I've been focusing on that forever. Pre-foreclosures has been my bread and butter forever, because I truly, truly love helping people. We've had sellers that we've helped keep the home. We've had sellers that the right thing for them to do was to move on to the next chapter of their life. So we were able to come in and help them out. But pre-foreclosures to the grave, because there's more meaning behind it. Because I believe that doesn't matter what you do in life, even real estate, right? You want to go through real estate because typically you want to build wealth. But if that's your only motivation, I promise you in 2 years, you're burnt out. You get bored, you're burnt out. You don't feel like you have a sense of purpose. So why not flip it to let you solving problems and serving others bring the result is you building your wealth by default. But if you don't have a bigger sense of purpose, a bigger sense of meaning behind it, right? Well, guess what? After 2 years, you can only do so much. You've flipped, you've done the Airbnb, you've done the midterm, you have a rental, and then now what? Now what? You get burnt out. This is the human nature. If one of the biggest questions, maybe best questions, everybody asks themselves, even in their sleep, is what is my purpose in life? And it's real in everything. This is all the stories we've heard here. A lot of people are burnt out with their 9 to 5. Why? No sense of purpose. Or they've done that purpose, and now they need a new challenge, a new purpose. That's just human. If you try to go against it, guarantee you get burnt out. So like I've had, this is the last story I'm going to tell before we get into it. But I've had my first flip, the GC, he was over his like 60s maybe. He's been flipping his whole life. Never kept the property. So now at that age, one of his biggest frustrations was that he has to show up to a job site at that age, even though he's looking to retire and manage a project. And I'm talking to him, I'm like, okay, why haven't you never kept the property? He's like, well, I hate toilet leaks. If you're managing GCs and subcontractors, a toilet leak is really very little compared to, managing a construction crew. But nonetheless, I was like, okay, but do you love like actually what you do? So it's him and his wife. His wife she's the one that designs basically everything, how the property is going to look, and he does the work, right? So I'm like, are you passionate at least about what you do here, right? It's like, no, I'm honestly just doing it because I hate it. I'm like, okay, how about if you flip that and you said, you know what happens when I flip a home? Let's say you put a purpose behind it. When I flip a home, I buy a house which is ugly in the neighborhood. So let's say you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to make the community look better. That's one. Secondly, I'm providing jobs. So let's say everybody working for you on this job site, they all have kids, they all have a family. You're paying them, so they're feeding their kids. This is just if you just added that, right? And then I said everybody else that get paid through that. So they feed their new family, right? that now their purpose is starting a new chapter in their life, and you are the one who was able to build a home that now they're going to call a home and maybe build it. I don't know. But how about if you just flip it and put that purpose in, even if you don't believe in it, you're still going to be way more motivated showing up. This is how he comes to my job site. But that's because you have zero sense of purpose or whatever you're doing. You're just working for yourself. You're just working for, let me build my rentals, let me build my Airbnbs, let me build my cash flow. It's me, 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 me. I'm allergic to that mentality. I'm allergic to that mentality, and it doesn't take you long term. So that's my biggest passion, is to learn and teach and then serve others. Thank you, guys.